Okay, it's gone. Okay, round three. We'll see if we can get this right this time. Uh, it just it's been a weird doing this every time I end up doing this. It ends up being a little bit different. So Sue's heard this thing three times, and it's going to be three different messages, sort of same premise, but it's changed every time. And we're talking about peace, joy, and trusting God. And after the first two times, I could have been angry and just like what's going on, but it is what it is. You just have to roll with the punches, and it'd be hypocritical of me to say to be talking about it and then talking about peace and joy and trusting God and say what's going on, God? Why can't this happen now? So we're gonna do it again, and hopefully this is the final time. But so, like I said, I'm gonna talk about peace, joy, and trust. And what's the biggest thing that can take away all of that? It's money usually. Uh, we have problems with family over money, problems with relationships over money. Money seems to be a big sticking point. Even look at the stimulus bill right going on right now. They can't get their stuff together to pass anything. I don't know if they finally passed one yet, but we'll see. So money is always a big sticking point. So that's sort of where we're going to start, and we're going to start in 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 6, 17 and 18 are the verses I'm going to go through. It says, "Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment." So the first part is teach those who are rich. There was a study done, and actually this first part comes from a grace sermon, the grace pastor. There's a study done, and they asked people who made $30,000, what would make you feel rich? How much money would you need to feel rich? And most common answer was $75,000. Then they asked the people who made $50,000, and their answer was $100,000. The most common answer in this survey was $120,000 is what most people thought would make them rich. And unless you made that much, then you thought $200,000 is what would make you rich. See, richness is something that I don't think we ever think we can attain. Even if we reach our goal, we always think we're not rich. We need a little bit more to be rich. So, when it says teach those who are rich in this, the second part is in this world. And these two stats blew me away. If you made $37,000, you're in the top 4% of wealthiest people in the world. And if you bump that up, not even a lot, just a little bit, $45,000, you're in the top 1% of wealthiest people in the world. And like I said, those stats blew me away. I never would have thought it was that low. In America, it's like you think top one percenters are looking at $250,000 plus. But in the world, it's $45,000. So now we get to biblical richness. And in the Bible, there's the Lord's Prayer. There is that verse that says, "Give us this day our daily bread." See, most people don't even have enough food on the table for today. Don't know where their next meal is coming, let alone have enough food on the table for tomorrow or the next day. So when we think about biblical richness, uh, what that means is, let me get my notes so I read this right. To have more than what you need from one day to the next. That is the definition of biblical richness. So most of us, I would say, out there listening to this are biblically rich. So these verses are talking to us when it says, teach those who are rich in this world. And the second part of that verse is not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. So we got 2 points. The first point is you need to put money in its proper place. When I was growing up, I grew up in church, and sort of the 4 most important things, especially when you have a family, like if you were to list them out, this is what I grew up on. Number 1 would be God. God is the most important. Second is your spouse. Third are your kids. Fourth is church. And you can put family in there anywhere, but some people's family is the church, their church family. And that's all they have. So those were sort of what I grew up on. Nowhere do you see the mention of money in there. Money is down on the list. So let me preface this by saying money isn't good and money is not bad either. But money can be dangerous. See, anything you put above God is dangerous. And anything you put above God, whatever's number 1 in your heart, is what you worship, is what you're going to worship. And it was put like this once to me, a pastor said, we all have a God-shaped hole in our heart. We're all built with that little hole in our heart that you could fill with whatever you want to fill it with, whatever you love the most, whatever's most important to you. Sometimes it's what we would call bad things, like drugs and alcohol, sexual sins, cigarettes, anything like that we would call not good things. Some of the things we prioritize number 1 aren't really that bad. Some people put relationships number 1, boyfriend, girlfriend, a spouse, their kids. It doesn't have to be like what we would call bad things. But everything is going to eventually let you down one time or another. And the only thing that will give you peace in your heart, a peace that you won't have to move from one thing to the next, one fix, one relationship to the next, is God. God gives you that peace. When He is number 1 in your heart, you'll have a peace that passes all understanding. And now we're going to move on to point 2. And that would be the verse, I think it's 18, I should say. It says, their trust should be in God, which gives them all they need for our enjoyment. So, where is your trust? There's 4 things we usually can put our trust in. Number 1 usually is ourselves, our own judgments, what we put our trust in. 2 would be job, money, possessions, house, worldly things that we put our trust in. 3 is our fears and anxieties we can put our trust in. And number 4 is usually, is God. So those are the top 4. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about when we came back to church. I always said that when Sunday school was opened up, we'd be back in church. Well, the first week it got opened up, we weren't back in church because I, in my own judgment, didn't really want to come back yet. It wasn't over fears and anxieties, it was over just working so much during these last 3-4 months, I've been working 55 to 60 hours a week, and I just wanted a break. So what happened was that Sunday I was like, oh, we'll just watch it online. And Amy was doing something. The kids were being rambunctious. They were running around and sort of just. Amy asked me to do something. I was like, I'm watching the church video right now. Then she asked again, and I just sort of snapped a little bit and said, that's it. We're going back to church next week. I wasn't mad at her. I was more mad at myself because I knew where we should be, and we weren't. So we come back to church, and a few weeks go by, and then we bring our 1-year-old Cora back. We didn't have asked anybody to watch her that week, so we ended up bringing her back, and she did really good for a 1-year-old. I mean, really good. I wasn't expecting her to do that good. So day goes on, and I sort of am wondering, well, what is she really getting out of this? She's here, but there's really nothing for her to do. So what's she really getting out of it? And God, I like bluntness, so God sort of slapped me on the head and said, you know what? It isn't about her. It's about the joy that she brings to others. Because even if everyone's having a bad mood in this place, when they see her come in, even with her mask on, I can see that their eyes are just filled with joy. You can see the smile through their mask. She doesn't care about COVID. She don't care about mask. She don't care you're not allowed to eat or drink in this place right now. She walks around, takes her shoes off. She dances in the middle of the aisle. We got blue tape between rows. She don't care about that blue tape. She'll knock it down and she'll climb on the pew. She just has fun, and she just brings joy into this place. So I'm gonna end with this. Christmas Eve service is coming up, and me personally, I want to see this place filled. I want to see it packed. I know it's probably not possible, but I want to see everybody back in this place. Because online worship is great. It's been effective, but there's nothing like being back in church. There's nothing like feeling the presence and fellowshipping with everybody. So if you're felt led to come back here, I'd say trust God. Don't trust the fears that the world is putting on us right now about COVID, and don't trust your anxieties. Just trust God. Trust the peace that He gives you, especially if you're being led to come back. We're gonna pray, and this will end. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that I could come back and do this message. God, I hope this is the one you wanted me to bring, and this is the one that you wanted to aired. I just thank you for Sue and just being able to put up with me for these 3 weeks. I just ask that you give everyone a peace, and may we trust you more and have more joy in our lives during this Christmas season. I ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.